question myself during my first year in the PhD program. Now that I'm thinking about it, I always question myself, like, how did I get here? How is this even possible? My parents don't even have a high school degree. Like, how did this happen? And so we question ourselves, but then we have to understand, like you said, we have a lot of resilience. As first generation college, we have a different experience that really build us into the person that we are today. And that is why we should continue to be proud of ourselves, if we are first generation or not, if we are going through our different struggles, just continue to be strong and keep pushing. Because I always tell myself, my nieces, my nephews in those communities in Bahamas, they are looking up to me. They have someone in their family who's going to one day own a doctoral degree, and I'm going to help them navigate that system that they don't even know exists yet. And I feel like that's what it is that we have to learn as we go throughout this process. And with that, I'll go ahead with Mia to please share your story. Tell us how you got interested in your field and whatever you want to share, because I love hearing stories.
Thank you, Bernice. Yeah, those are great stories that everyone shared, and it really goes again to the point of different stages of development for everyone, and to pay it forward as well as a key lesson there that, you're paying it forward in not only what you do and how you learn and for yourself, but also how you expose others to those fields and different issues and thematic areas as well. So great point there, which goes to the next point of my own development, which I actually started internationally in. I have lived abroad a lot. And whilst I was born in the US, both my parents are European, and I want to say technically also first gen, but my mom did go to college. However, she didn't get her degree necessarily, also because of a war that was going on within Bosnia at the time. So not really sure how that plays out. But yeah, so it's really definitely an interesting dynamic, as you say, of resilience and opening the doors again for everyone. And so once I finished the international relations degree with FIU, I continued with a China studies program in China because of my time there and because of different areas and interests in US relations that I was interested in. But upon graduating, I started realizing that I was interested in kind of a lot of the policy tracks. So related to both foreign policy and public policy, also because of the exposure and different things that were happening within the US that I was interested more in a kind of local or national capacity as well. So after graduating with that degree, within pretty much less than a year, I decided to apply for the MPA track with FIU in hopes of, expanding a more applicable and practical area of expertise that can really apply to different areas, as mentioned, and also opening opportunities through this. And that's how I ended up, going into the degree, expanding my own network, expanding my knowledge, and then coincidentally with the previous ICMA at FIU president, I became the next one because Franz Williams, he was the previous one before me, and he actually kind of, contacted me or recruited me in that sense, also because of my interest with student resources and student development. So, that's how I eventually came to this area of interest as well.
Wow. I'm just so happy just hearing the stories. And I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Just, Mia said something about paying it forward. And I feel like that's where I'm at right now, at the stage where I've learned a lot. I've had great mentors throughout the entire process, and now it's time for me to pay it forward. It's time for me to find ways to give back, whether it's through volunteer, whether it's through student association. And so I have a passion for actually giving back and helping people to learn what it is that I've learned along the way and not keeping that knowledge to myself. And so a follow-up question I have is, have you participated in a mentor program before? If so, what did you find useful? And with that, we'll start with Chloe. I can repeat the question.
I'm so sorry. I got caught in the chat, so I would appreciate that, Bernice.
Yeah, so the question that I'm asking is, have you participated in a mentor program before? And if so, what did you find useful throughout that mentorship program?
Oh my God, I feel like there's many mentorship programs, but any group that I enter or get involved with, when I see people doing things that I hope to do, or I really appreciate their passion, I immediately address them. Like, I see Bernice as my mentor. I see plenty of people even younger than me as mentors. I recently did join Women in Government Relations and became a part of their DE&I committee. And they did have a mentorship program that I really valued because, again, the person who served as my mentor for that period, who is still my mentor, she really established this non-ageist approach, as in, I know you're here to learn from me, but I'm here to learn from you also. Just as we think of society becoming more globalized and incorporating technology, it's really important to have these cross-generational, intergenerational relationships so, we can collectively do better. So yeah, so the multi-generational and this dual exchange is really important in those mentorship programs.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Tell me, have you participated in any program? And if so, what did you find useful?
Yes. So for me, I would say when I was in undergrad, I definitely was a part of a program which helped me at the time when I was considering the health professions. They had a mentor from the medical college, which would they had gave me access to them via text or email, and I got to ask them lots of questions. And I think as of recently with my new program, I would say that I do have mentors per se that I can reach out to, whether it's faculty in the department, including one of them I work with, Dr. Pallavi, and she got me connected with this event, and she's a product also of FIU. She has lots of resources and lots of knowledge to help me just continue forward and finding out what I want to do, even helping me out with the ICMA program or organization at our school. And I've also recently connected with government officials within Fort Lauderdale, one of which is our chapter mentor, Chris Laker Bloom. So it's been really good. I've been learning a lot about the issues that cities deal with, as well as just the kind of qualities that make a leader and within public administration.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And what I'm picking up from what you're saying is that a lot of time we do need these mentors to help guide us. I would honestly say I would not have been where I am today if it wasn't for a mentor, if it wasn't for someone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, someone that pushed me, someone that saw potential in me and wanted to teach me. And I think throughout this process, what we have to do is be open to learning new things. Be open to accepting new challenges. A lot of time we don't want to accept the challenge because we don't know we're capable, but that's the purpose. That's why we have the mentor. So when I'm lost, when I don't know what to do, I'm confused, I call my mentor. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Can you help? And she guides you. Now I'm in a position, now I know the process, I can teach someone else. So I think, yes, you definitely hit on some important points on the importance of mentorship. I can share more, but I will now move on to Amanda, if she can share some of her experience with us through mentorship program.
First, I want to knock on some points that Bernice and Chloe mentioned that are so important, is that when you're in a mentorship program, first, you have to it's really an exchange. It's almost like a friendship. I offer things to you and you offer really a lot to me as well. It's almost like a very positive friendship, and really the energies are synced with one another. So really you're interacting with that person for long periods at a time. And really it's a lifelong friendship for the most part. And second, I do want to say that when you're in a mentorship program, you learn things about yourself that at times it's very uncomfortable, because it's coming from someone who is not biased, people that don't really know you that well as of right now. So you learn things about yourself that might be a little bit uncomfortable at first, or things that you do not want to accept. But really, that's the best way to grow and become the leader or the person that you wish to become. I recently was involved in a program that Barry actually leads. It's called the ELP, also known as the Emerging Leaders Program. And really different students, faculty and staff come. It's a 6-week program. And really we meet on a weekly basis and really catch up and do different activities that allow for working together as a team, for connecting, networking. And that has really enabled me and prepared me for, things that I really want to learn in the future. And I think that as we grow and as we go, we're always learning. We're always students. We're always learning from one another. And then hopefully we get to that point where we can teach others that experience and the knowledge that we have learned.
Right. And I'm kind of, now that you mentioned the ELP program, I don't know about it specifically, but as a doctoral student, and I feel like a lot, I don't know if we have any doctoral student here. For me, a lot of my mentorship, sometimes you have to go and knock at these doors. You have to go and seek those mentorship opportunities. And I think that's something I did while I was an undergraduate student, and that got me into the PhD program, is that I went and knocked on the door of a professor, and I'm like, can you be my mentor? I'm about to graduate and I don't know what's next for me. Can you be my mentor and help guide me? Sorry about the noise. But I feel like that really helped. Even now as a doctoral student, I seek mentorship opportunities through the ASPA Association, APAM, NOVA. So they have all of these different associations that you can join, and you have a mentor from a different university. What I don't want us to do is be stuck in our little bubbles and just seek mentorship opportunities in the little circle that we're in. But I want us to open up ourselves to mentorship opportunities outside of our horizon. So that I think is very important as well. And with that, I'll ask Mia and then Merlandi to share their experience through mentorship program.
Yeah, great points, everyone. Thank you, Bernice. Yeah, I definitely want to, right on what everyone's been saying. Again, it's, a two-way street with mentorship. You're learning how to mentor yourself, to mentor somebody else, and also you're developing yourself as a mentor and learning how to be a mentor from somebody else. So there's a lot to learn for everybody. I'm not sure if I would say I've been part of a mentor program per se entirely, but definitely had different opportunities to mentor and to be under a mentor. For example, with USAID, I was basically mentored by the policy director, and he was very helpful because not only was he very inclusive with everything that was happening and with learning opportunities, but also, was very supportive with also career opportunities afterwards. So, from writing recommendation letters to connecting me to other people, that is also another important aspect to have that. You don't finish being a mentor. You might have the opportunity to spend time within them, but afterwards there's always opportunity for you to keep helping. And those are some examples there. Also, as ICMA president, I help with the students' resources right there, and with a team, we're a great team together, work collaboratively together, and also having previous other experiences with students themselves as a teaching assistant and a tutor to young children, that has really helped me in mentoring, as well as being aware of different things, with cultural awareness, different teaching methods, and how that intersected as well. And again, exploring my own leadership style or development in that.
Okay. Go ahead, Merlandi, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so my experience is just kind of like basically a little different because, coming from like a country where like you have your parents, but they don't really know the background of the country. They can help you through like, school, education, so they cannot go somewhere and talk to somebody for you. So you have to do everything. So I guess I like the mentorship part in my life because I didn't really have somebody I can go through and then say, hey, I need help. So I guess this is where I messed up. And then until I decided in my junior year to go to my advisor, Olivia Jackson. So Dr. Olivia Jackson. So thank you for everything, for all the support, because she sent me all the opportunities that like were available to her. And then that helped me a lot. But basically, currently I'm just going through like just some type of mentorship program with the White House initiative on HBCU, where I represent FMU. And then basically we go like through some session every month, meeting with the FDIC, NASA, like people from the government, getting to know like their aspiration and then what they did in their life. So everything possible, getting some networking too as well. So we got to follow them on Twitter and everything. So ask for ideas. I guess this is so important. So both ways, be a good mentor in the future, but as well, so right now you have to be a good mentee and follow up like when they give you the advice, because when they put their name in the line for you, so you don't have to like mess up, because in the future you have to set that for somebody that's coming after you.
Right. No, I just love listening to your story, Merlandi, because I see myself in you in so many ways. especially, you know, some of the, and that's one thing I'm picking up from your conversation as well, is some of the challenges that we face. And I know the challenges has been increased with the pandemic. I can share many stories of challenges that I've faced throughout my doctoral program. You know, reaching to a point where my mom had gotten sick, where I had to leave and try to take care of her, help her, while also keeping up with my classes. So that being said, I want you guys to share, did you have to overcome an obstacle to get where you are today? And if so, how did you overcome it? Because I feel like we can learn, people can learn from our stories, how we overcome challenges that we are faced with and how we navigate those challenges. What did you do? Because a lot of us go through so many things that we don't want to open up about it. We don't want to share it. And some of it may be personal, which is why I feel like we have to find someone we can trust and confide in to share with them what we're going through, be it financially, be it personal situation that you can't really share with everyone. So have you had to overcome any challenges? And with that, we'll start with Mia. Like, did you have to overcome a challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Yes, great question. Yeah, as with everyone, there's definitely different obstacles you'll face. I would say there are definitely different obstacles that I had in my way. You know, as you mentioned, both personal with regards to family and financial, that did hold me back. You know, personally, I did face some financial issues with having to also support my family as well as establishing my own path. And that kind of did hold me back a little bit, but you know, I'm powering through, gaining more opportunities, and again, connecting with networks and mentees that have helped me through this process as well. One area that I do connect also with Merlandi on is kind of learning how to navigate things yourself, which was the case with, for example, the job applying process. Once I graduated with the China Master's Studies, I had no idea what the process was going to entail, really, because there's so many different aspects to it with interviewing and practicing, with regards to actually knowing that you have to build on your connections in some way because they're going to help you. That was definitely an obstacle that I had to learn, that this is something that happens. So that was, those are some obstacles that, you know, were in the way that I'm overcoming and overcame. Really, I think one point that would be to take from this is not only to reach out for support systems, for mentees, for connections to help you, and for also, for example, career mentors that, like the career mentorship program or center that we have, that can guide you a little bit in that sense. It's also kind of having that mental mindset, you know, nothing's permanent, everything's always going to change. So once you put the work to it, you're eventually going to get there. So I think that's one thing to remember with obstacles as well.
Awesome. And listen to you too. I think I see that we have a group of students watching us. And what I want to say is that what got me through college is just scholarship, guys. Like, I don't care what level you're at, if you're undergrad, if you're in high school, if you're in middle school, scholarship got me through. And if it got me through, I feel like it can get you through as well. I feel like sometimes we are afraid when we look at the scholarship applications because financially it's a struggle. And so every little bit of financial support really goes a long way. And so a lot of times if you see scholarships that you apply for, especially as the chair of the scholarship committee for the ASPA South Florida chapter, we open up the scholarship, and when we look at it, there's not much applicant. I don't know if it's because the students are afraid that they're not going to get it. I would apply for all 5. If I don't get one, I'll get 2. If I don't get 2, I'll get 3. So apply for everything. Apply for the financial support that you can get. Even if you don't pay, if your classes are covered, you can use it for books instead of taking out loans that you will have to pay later on today. So that's one of the things I have to say when it concerns financial support. And with that, I'll ask Amanda to also go ahead and share if you had to overcome any obstacles and how did you overcome those?
I think the biggest obstacle I had to overcome was being, just being uncomfortable and getting out of my comfort zone. For me, I would have not been able, looking back maybe 5 years, I would have not been in front of you all right now because I had the worst type of, like panic speaking in front of people. It was just something that never came to me. But then when I was internally analyzing myself, I realized that I was missing out on so many opportunities only because I didn't want to speak up and really be that voice. So for me, that was the biggest challenge I had to overcome. But like I said, it was just getting in front of an audience, getting in front of people, being involved in my campus, that really gave me the confidence and really just the power to push through and be uncomfortable, get out of my comfort zone. We realize that when we get out of our comfort zone, we have so many opportunities that we wouldn't have had if we wouldn't have stepped out. And I think something else that I've kind of seen that's a theme nowadays is like imposter syndrome. Am I worthy of this opportunity? Do I really deserve it? And for me, it was also that realizing that I am worthy, I will be worthy, and that anything that comes my way is, meant for me and I deserve it. And I'm just going to work at it and be the best that I can.
Great. Yes, that's definitely true. And I'm happy you shared that with our audience. Tommy, go ahead if you have anything to share about challenges that you had to overcome throughout your process.
Yes. So I would say that for me, I think the idea of going into leadership can be hard initially when, like Amanda was saying, with the imposter syndrome or feeling like maybe it's just something that's like a big challenge. I think for me also, coming from a different career in undergrad, it was the idea of like, do I really want to do this change? Because a lot of times, I know there's some people that are like from the start ready to dive into different careers, but I think for me, I had a very specific focus. And so kind of overcoming that mindset of, that this is the only career I can think about, I think that was a big obstacle for me at first. But I think reflecting on what my passions were, talking with a mentor about basically like the things that I was really interested in, that could be a possibility outside of my original career in medicine. It was very helpful because it made me realize that there's something that I was more passionate about and that it was okay for me to be able to make that change, and really identify those goals that I wanted to set out for myself. Because I think in a season where you're transitioning, it can be easy to get stagnant. And I think having that feedback helps to identify goals and grow.
Awesome. Yeah, most definitely. We don't reach to the point where you feel like, okay, I've arrived. I feel like life alone is a learning process. We learn, we grow, we tackle one challenge today, another one is waiting on us tomorrow. And so it never stops. It's just us having the resilience and the passion to just move in and being able to change, use different tactics, use different strategies. Would work 5 years ago, wouldn't work today, especially during a pandemic. I know a lot of students, when we talk to them, they don't like online classes. They will not take an online class. But the pandemic hit, you had no other option. So you have to be very open-minded in learning new things. We never finish, we will never stop learning. And so if you see something that you don't like, you just find ways to learn, just learn about it and just see what it is and how you can go about it. Like I said, during this time, there's so many things that we are going through and we need to be able to have that resilience. And so Merlandi, go ahead and share if you have any story that you would like to share. And remember, if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat. We will definitely answer your questions at the end. And also we will open the floor for us to just have a conversation. If you don't like typing the question, you can just raise your hand and we will unmute your mic and you can just ask the question. We will talk and have a dialogue. So Merlandi, go ahead.
All right. So for me, one of the biggest challenges that I had to overcome to be where I am today, just like get out of my comfort zone and then step on some norms that I used to back in my countries. So when I was there, I used to hear people say that the United States is a country of opportunities. But one thing I've learned when I migrated to the United States, just like, yes, the opportunities are there, but you have to chase them. So they're not coming to you. So you have to go to them, like to go talk to people who are already like seeing more than you do, like. And then my people, they just taught me that I have to hide myself. So this has prevented me from exploiting my potentials. And then it was hard for me. Just, they didn't know me. At school, I just like Melanie, that's all. So when I'm in class, but I use the virtual classes in my advantage when I decided to step out of my comfort zone. Even though I didn't have anything to say, I just like raise my hand. So my teachers, they're gonna acknowledge me and say Melindy. So the name gonna be stuck in the head. And then whenever they have something like coming out, they're gonna say, oh, okay, she used to talk in class. Let me send it to her. Maybe she might like it. And then this is how I get a lot of opportunities like in class because of me talking, trying to be uncomfortable in order to be successful.
Right.
So the success not coming to you by being in your comfort zone. But it's okay. You're gonna be comfortable, but you're not gonna be successful, most likely. But I'm still struggling to expand my horizon, but I'm in a better shape now than last year.
Right. And what I'm hearing for what you're saying, it reminds me of something, because many times, whether we like it or not, at one point we will need someone to write a recommendation for us. And so you raising your hands in class just so your professors can acknowledge, or you can ask a question. It's good, because now they will remember, okay, I had Melindy, she was a student in my class, and now she's asking me for a recommendation. I can speak to her potential, what it is that she does. But if you're in a classroom, but you don't ask questions, you don't interact with the professors, you don't seek help, office hours, you don't ask this. So I think that's very, very important, even for us as doctoral student, master student, undergrad. And I think that's why I wanted the panel to be so broad with masters, MPA, and undergraduate student, because we don't know who it is that is listening. And so we want everyone to get something out of the session. And so we spoke about some of the different challenges. And I think another question I have is same to the idea of the pandemic, is like, what would be your advice? I can read the questions like this, is that given the many challenges caused by the pandemic, what would be your advice to students who feel like giving up? Especially during the time now where we have a lot of students who feel like, okay, I'm done, I'm over it, I'm just gonna go ahead and find me a job. Because I know many times that run through my head as well. Like, I can't sustain myself, I can't do this. But then a lot of us, we have to think long-term. So what would be your advice to someone that's listening to us now that feels like they're on the verge of giving up? What would be your advice to them? And we would start with Tommy.
Thank you. Yeah, the pandemic, I feel like it has been something really unexpected, and at a bigger scale than maybe any other epidemic that we've seen in a while. Coming from a public health background, for me, that's kind of like, it's interesting to see, because I think the last time that I know of that there was a pandemic this wide was in 1914. Just how much widespread it affected people. And so I guess now dealing with it, I'm sure it's hard on everyone in different ways, whether it's mentally, physically, socially. And one of the ways that I've thought about it, as far as like dealing with it, has just been really thinking about what it is. It's a challenge. And while it's a really big one, I think I relate it to other challenges in my life where, or any of you guys, challenges in your life where, although it was maybe smaller than that, there was something that we learned from it and overcame. And so I think relating to other challenges that we've gone through, whether it's in academics, going through a test and actually doing great on it, or working through a relationship and finding the positive things out of it that kind of helped us persevere in it. We can take some of those skills and things that we've learned and transfer it to the pandemic and think about, okay, well, I know this is harder, I'm online, but there's the availability of people around me that can still help support me through assignments, through networking, through webinars like this, and kind of having those positive outcomes from the past, like remembering them, having a vision for the future. I think those really help a lot into really going through and persevering through studies and just any sort of problem during the pandemic.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think knowing that we have a support system, knowing that we have people that wants to support us is important. I think it was just in my first year of my doctoral student, and I felt like, okay, my mentor just helped me get into this PhD program, and I already feel like a failure. Like, I can't do this, like I have so many things going on. But I think what really helped me got through my first year is talking, is asking for help when I needed help, is asking my professors to be flexible with me. I know I couldn't attend class because I had to travel to help my sick mom. But my professors were open. I was actually surprised as how open they were in wanting to help me, how open they were in wanting me to succeed. A lot of times it's in our mind that we think that, okay, my professor don't really care or my teacher don't really care. And all we had to do was ask for help. All we had to do was reach out. In my fourth year of a PhD program where I felt like, okay, I couldn't sustain myself financially no more, I was ready to be like, okay, maybe I have to give up. But no, all I had to do was reach out to the director. All I had to do was reach out to a professor and let them know what it is I'm going through. Let them know what it is that I'm facing and how it's impacting me and how it could impact my education and experience as well. So yes, I agree. Finding a support system, speaking up, asking for help when we need help. You don't have to do it alone. Ask for help when you need help. No need to burn yourself out. And I always tell people, if you feel burned out, take a day off. And I'm still learning that. I'll be burned off and I'm still working. So I'm giving advice and I'm also taking my own advice. But I think it's okay to take a break. Just don't give up. It's okay to rest. Just don't give up. If you can't do it today, do it tomorrow. So yes, with that, I'll go ahead and ask Chloe to go ahead and share your experience as well.
First of all, to people in this pandemic who have academic endeavors and are considering giving up, my advice is do not give up, give in, especially if you identify as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, person of color, if you identify as someone who lives with a disability, if you identify as a member of the LGBTQ plus community. The floodgates have opened up. It is a very unfortunate, heavy, depressing, gut-wrenching time in history. But for those who have to resist against systems of oppression, the opportunities there are abundant in a way that I worry they may never be. And I think, they say the early bird gets the worm. I would hate for anybody to miss out on the opportunities that have started to open up over the past 2 years. And I think back, I think that's the difference between younger 20s me and late 20s me now. I was determined to be a self-made woman, independent, got it, always on point, and I failed on my butt, ate the floor, and that is the greatest success of my life, because nothing that I've done or will ever do is self-made. I've had extreme help. I think even when I reflect back on my first college experience, I had too much pride to reach out to other departments and Black professors in the university. And that would have been the next best choice instead of just taking all of that in. And I think that's the greatest gift of falling in life, especially in those moments when you want to give up, is, you're hearing people at the highest levels of the academy saying, I ask. And I think, this is a hard time, and I'm certain there are going to be even more challenging times down your road. Whatever you have to do. I posted my first Instagram post in 2 years last week. I cut out so much reality TV, a lot of friends, certain family members. Don't give up, give in, whether that's prayer, meditation, listening to on YouTube, you can have motivational clips. But I think a part of being successful is learning how to program yourself and learning how to protect your program and not letting people intrude in thought.
Wow, so inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing that, Chloe. Amanda, we would love to hear your side of the story if you've overcome any challenges.
For me, I think the biggest lesson I think that I have learned is that mental health is so important. And if we're mentally not in our space, and if we're mentally not in the right mind, whatever we produce or put into it, it's really not going to be what we want to accomplish. And for me, that was something that became really eye-opening. Coming from a Hispanic background, my family was never really open about mental health and really the challenges that come with it, that it's something that's actually normal, that therapy shouldn't be stigmatized, all these different things that I had to really come to terms with and understand that it's normal, and that people around me, my college mates, even my family members, when they show signs of either depression, anxiety, that these are things that are normal and that shouldn't be discriminated. So for me, that's something that was just understanding that it's okay to bounce back. It's okay to have days where you don't feel your best, or days where you don't feel like you're putting in as much potential, but don't let that undermine you or make you feel less worthy, because you are that much worth. So for me, that's something that's very important. And also with that, it's just showing up.
Right.
Showing up on days where you really have to just show up for yourself, even if others don't believe in you. Just show up for yourself. And it's also very important to find that support group, whether it be family or friends, to really have that support group there with you, and have different support groups. Have a friend that you can go to, let's say you have, personal needs, or have that friend that you can really just open up, or have that friend that has resources that they can provide for you and you can provide for them. So I think we all have different friend groups when it comes to that as well, that we can count on and really use in different times of need.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. And as you were speaking, one word that stuck with me is to show up. Show up. Regardless how you're feeling, there are going to be days where you don't feel like showing up. There are going to be days that you want to stay in bed and you just, okay, I'm over this, but show up. And I think that worked to my advantage, especially when I was doing my undergrad. If I tell, and let your yes be yes. If you said that you're going to do something, do it. If you don't want to do it, just don't do it. But if you say yes, if a mentor asks you to do something, you say yes, show up. So that's one thing that stuck with me as you were speaking. And with that, I'll ask Mia to please, Mia, go ahead and share your story as well. Love to hear any advice that you would have for someone that's on the verge of giving up.
Thank you, Bernice. Yeah, a lot of great comments and advice given here. So kudos to all of you, really.
Yes.
I would say to add on, or to reiterate some of the things that I've been saying, couple things actually. I mean, there is a mindset to understand, first of all, everyone's going through a difficult time right now in their own ways. And so you're not alone, first of all. And again, reaching out to your support system, or reaching out to people that could be your support system, is definitely something that one should do. If you realize what is going on and you need that support. There are a lot of different comments that were made in regarding to the voice in your head as well. One thing I would like to add to that is you need to also be your own advocate in your voice when you hear that negative mindset within yourself. That's something that I've had to learn, is to combat that voice with another voice and keep reminding yourself to keep going. So that's one thing to add there. One quote that I heard from, I believe it was Dr. Wanda Collin. It was during a Pi Alpha Alpha meeting for the FIU chapter. And one thing that a quote that stuck out that she said was, 10% is what happens to you. 90% is how you react to it, how you change from it. So that is very applicable, that it's, things are always going to happen. There's always going to be challenges, not just from the pandemic or exacerbated by the pandemic, but even going after, or the after effects of that, there's something else that's going to pop up. So it's really just about how you center yourself, how you react to it, and how you can grow from that as well. So that's something that I would like to add to the students, is that you need to keep going and keep learning, because you'll learn how to create that resilience. You'll learn how to create that strength and that confidence as well. And it builds up. You have your own timeline. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and you're going to get there eventually. So that's my key advice or token right there.
Very, very inspirational. I think we have Casey that's raising his hand, and it's okay to disturb. I love it. So go ahead, Casey.
All right, perfect. So seeing as I'm probably on the older end of the panel here, or the older end of the group here, so I'm not really the next generation, I'm just the current generation at this point, getting older as we speak. So I'm going to give everyone my piece of life advice.
Please.
So don't worry about anything. I know that sounds like strange advice to give, but I'm now old enough to know that, sometimes when I was younger, I'd overthink things, or I would overanalyze, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Should I have said this? Should I have said that? Well, how could I have done it differently? Don't think about it. Just do it. Just do. If you want to go for something, go for it. If you want to ask a question, ask a question. Remember, in life, you've got very little to lose. You really do. You just have to go for it.
Wow. And I'll go back to what you just said, but I'm going to ask Merlindy for advice because I don't want to skip anyone, but I'm going back because what you just said goes right into the other question that I have for the panelists. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go bounce back to that question in a minute. Merlindy, go ahead and share any advice that you would have for anyone that want to give up. Yes.
All right, so I would like to say, don't give up because challenges never end. Today it can be the pandemic, tomorrow it can be like somebody die in your family, so you might feel like giving up. So if you like allow yourself to just drown right now, so it might happen in the future when something else come up. So first, so if you have a lot of time at home, just using your advantage. Take a course, a free course online, and then if you like gaming, make money off of it. And then if you like using social media, create your content, build your profile, e-connect, and then so you have to change your mindset first. Because if you think the pandemic is an obstacle, it surely will. But if you think it's an advantage for you to go forward and then like make your business online, so yes, that's what's gonna happen to you. That's all.
Wow, very, very powerful. And thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, just use it to your advantage. And Casey just said something is don't worry about anything. And my question, my follow-up question was actually, is there anything you would have done differently? Or what would you have told your early career self? And as Casey was talking, one of the things I probably would have told myself is don't worry about anything. And that's one thing I realized as I get older and as I get older. Today is actually my birthday, actually. So, and I'm here as well. So I'm getting older and I'm learning that. And that's one advice I'm going to take away from this is don't worry about anything. Because I felt like although worrying about the next step has helped me to be where I am today, but what I would have told my earlier self is there are certain things that I worried so much about. I should have just taken a deep breath and just let it be. I worried about failing classes because I was the student that has to get an A to be satisfied. Maybe now I'm in a PhD program, I'm like, okay, I'll settle for a B. At this point, it is what it is, right? But I think the most important thing, like, if you could share something, what would you told your early career self? Yeah, that's the question. Is there anything you would have done differently, or what would you have told your early career self? And that question, I'm going to start with Amanda. I had a strategy, but it's messed up now. So Amanda, if you would have done anything differently, what would it be?
So for me, I definitely would have just, any opportunity that would have came my way, I wouldn't have thought about it. I would have just done it. I think many opportunities are missed in the sense that maybe we think that we're not capable in that time to actually take on those opportunities. But for me, that's something that I follow through now. If I see an opportunity or something that I can be personally involved with or indirectly or direct or indirect, I do it. Whatever it is, something that interests me, I go ahead and I do it and I put my all into it. So that's something that I would have done differently personally. It's just any opportunity that came my way or any collaboration, take that collaboration, take that opportunity, because you do not know what other opportunities lie along the road. And I think if you would have taken that opportunity or not, then you would have just maybe set yourself up for things that would have happened in the future if it wasn't for you taking that opportunity. So I think that's also something that's very important. To anything that comes your way, just do it, just take it. You are capable, you are able to do it, and it's clearly being presented to you in one way because you are capable of doing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll go ahead with Mia if you have anything you want to share.
Sure. Thank you. Great points, Amanda. And also thank you, Casey, again. I definitely resonate with what Casey was saying because I wasn't sometimes I'm still an overthinker, but, I was an overthinker. I was, in a sense, rushing to try to get to where I wanted to go with, positions or things that I was interested in. I think one piece of advice as well there is not just don't worry, but take your time. You're going to get where you want to go. Stop rushing, take all the opportunities you can get to develop yourself as a person and as a professional, because it's going to help you down the line. Things that you learn in certain programs or positions or roles, they're going to help you sometime later on. You're going to see, you see how these things intersect. So take your time and take your time to learn as well. So I mean, that would be some of the advice I definitely bring.
Another great advice I needed to hear. Oh my goodness. It's like in my final year of a PhD program and I'm rushing so many things. And I'm like, gosh, what is next for me? And to hear you say to just take my time is like a breath of fresh air. Like, it's okay, Vernice, take your time. It's going to happen. If it don't happen today, it's going to happen tomorrow. You can't be in the program for another 5 years. They will probably kick you out. So it's okay to take your time. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that so much. And I needed to hear this. And I think that's what I'm enjoying so much about the panel is as you guys speak, I'm receiving advice to take throughout my day, to think about it, to reflect on it. And I don't want us just to have the panel and forget about what was said here, but I actually want you guys to actually think about what it is that we are saying here, reflect on it. There's a recording. If you want to go back and play it again and just say, take some of the advice, because so many great advice was shared here today. And I'm going ahead and ask Melendi if she'll have anything to share.
Okay, so for me, to be honest, so I wouldn't trade my past for anything. So because the only certainty that I have is just like I am who I am because of my past. Maybe I could have done better, yes, because there's always room for improvement. But sometimes you think that you're doing like something good for yourself, but you end up hurting your future, what it was like, who you are destined to be. But the thing is, so what I would certainly say to myself to stay humble, believe in myself, and then always listen to those who already went to a certain area that I want to be in the future, and always seek help. I have a mentor in my life so that I can share like stuff with, and then that can help me through, because I waste a lot of energy and time by figuring out stuff by myself. So if I had a mentor, so I thought I would have done better.
Great advice. Great advice. And Chloe, go ahead if you want to share anything. Thank you, Melendi.
Well, if I could have some words with myself starting out, I mean, from at first, I think it would be to like look critically at these gender norms that you grew up with and that you follow. I think the way I show up now is kind of against the grain, for my family. Going into college, I felt like the best thing I can do is, I think I was more interested in finding a potential spouse than a degree. And that would have resonated more with my parents if, I ended up married over any academic accomplishment. And that may even be the case today. And from like the heteronormative perspective, I would tell myself to leave these chicken head boys alone. And when I think there's a part of us that we don't talk about a lot with our professional endeavors, like that romantic idea of like connecting with another human being can really be consuming and unhealthy if you don't really unpack and learn to love yourself first. I think I would have told myself to date me and love me and know me more. And I think, I can criticize those people, but I can also criticize what I gave to others in relationships based on not having that love for myself first. So if you're someone on here with partner problems in the love scene, like I've read books from Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou, Elaine Welteroth, and all of them had terrible dating lives and they're extremely successful. I think like Michelle Obama, when you look at interviews of her and people talk to her about, dating different people, she knew what she was worth. She was not trying to be in these streets. And I think everyone here should navigate, not deconstructing this idea of partnership in whatever way that, means for you, but be your best partner first. And there's time, like now that I'm past 25, I get the social biological questions about children, and when's this and when's that. And I hear that and I think it comes from a good place. However, it's a beautiful thing to be your own author and to release the pressures that society may be implementing on you in regards to that. Because I'm sure that's going to be forever in thought.
Wow. And if I could take anything away from what you're saying is that, especially on the topic of empowering the next generation of public servant, is to be your true self, be your authentic self, be who you want to be. right? And I think that's what a lot of us have to learn. And it's a learning experience, and we learn it as well as we get older. The person we are now is not the person we were 5 years ago. It will probably not be the person we are 10, 20 years from now. And so, yes, we are growing, but one thing for sure, we need to be consistent with being our authentic self, showing up as our true self, because I think that's when we begin to make the greatest impact as public servant. And I think a lot of it, we attract people when they see that, okay, this person is very authentic, they are true, I can share my story with them, they understand where I'm coming from, and you can only be fake for so long. At one point, if you're faking, it's going to show. So thank you, Chloe, for sharing that. As just beautifully said, and I thank you, appreciate you for sharing that. And I would like to ask Mia if she has anything to share on the topic.
Oh, I already shared on this. I think it's Tommy that's last.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I told you guys I get excited. The topic is so broad and we're just talking and I love it. Tommy, go ahead.
Yeah, with my earlier self, I would say that, I mentioned it earlier, but just very dedicated towards the career I was going to, which I don't think is a bad thing. But I think being involved in more internships would have helped. I think in internships and shadowing experiences and networking, I think you really get to have more of a grasp on what the career is that you're looking into, or other careers that might be just around you that you haven't considered. So I would have probably told myself to do more of those, because I think that would broaden the perspective that I had at the time. I think I do value all of the academic achievements that I had, but I think having that more academic mindset in some ways limited me, because I was like that student that would be going to class and then going to tutoring sessions and then going home, versus like stay on campus and getting involved in other organizations. So I think being more involved on campus with different organizations as well would help, as well as a mentor. I think a lot of this discussion has been on mentorships, and I realized that only now, I think in my master's program, is where I've had like real academic mentors, and I think having that early on would have helped too, because I see there's so much potential, there's so much connections, even just the relationships with people. I think there's just so much wisdom that people bring to the table that can mean the difference between just going to the next, I don't know, growing or going to the next level. And I can see a lot of exponential growth with mentorship. So yeah, I would say getting more involved and getting more mentors.
Great. And I think I didn't miss anyone, right? Before I move to the last question, I see we have about 4 more minutes and then we'll move into the Q&A for us to have a conversation. But I have Dr.
Bernice, I joined late, but I didn't know if you wanted me to answer the question as well.
Yes, please go ahead and join.
Okay, and I'll be quick. So I'm Paula Hopkins. I'm from the Senior Director of Strategy from PepsiCo. And so I bring that private lens into the room, which I'm so excited to hear all of the public service. So I think just 2 things to add and listening to the conversation. One would be, if I had to say, how do we empower the next generation, is how do we build on the skills that are transferable that you need in public and private, right? And there's a lot that's transferable, believe me, guys, because I know, because I think we're living in a world where it's going to take all of us together, the public, the private, the nonprofit, to figure out and make sure it's great for the next generation. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I like the mentorship, but I also say that we need sponsorship. What happens sometimes in the rooms, like we're mentored out, especially in my world. However, if I have someone speaking for me in the room to say, hey, give Tommy a chance, or give Casey a chance, or give me a chance, and let's put some stretch on her, that matters. So I think sponsorship is one we need to continue the conversation on.
And thank you so much for sharing that, Paula. And I think that is so, so important. And to be honest, guys, I feel like I am, again, where I am. I'm going to mention Dr. Agatha Caraballo. She is like the anchor to where I am today. is because I feel like she is the type of mentor where I can be sure if an opportunity arises, she will probably mention my name in the room and someone else will reach out and she would share different opportunities with me. And I think an idea of empowering the next generation of public servant is for us to begin to uplift one another, support one another. If I see opportunities that Mia, Melendy, Chloe, Amanda, any opportunities that I see that may be beneficial to you guys, or to one of Evangeline, she just graduated with her MPA. If I know she graduated her MPA program and she's looking for a career opportunity, if something opens up or you see an ad, it's okay to just send the link to the person. It's okay to just ask them, hey, I saw this opportunity and I thought about you. And it's okay for us to let other students know, I saw this scholarship opportunity and I thought about you. And I've had a lot of people done it for me. And I want you guys to do the same for others, especially those of us who are more advanced, who have more experience. So I think that's important. And I think the last question I had, we'll ask Paula to start off again because, she joined a little late, but I am going to ask it before we open it up to the Q&A, and then it may be the end of it. So we have more conversation. If not, then I can ask the other questions. But I think this was a fun question. I left it for last for a reason is, what's a typical day like in your life? Or how do you spend your time? I can tell you how I spend my time as a doctoral student, from staying in the books until I fall asleep or I need food. But I would love to know, how do you guys spend your times? You guys are so inspirational. You guys shared so many beautiful stories. And I would just want to, maybe it will inspire someone. Like, what do they do? Do they just stay in their books? Maybe someone is wondering.
Yeah, so for me, very quickly, and every day is different. I try to have like my travel days on Wednesday and Thursday, because it's the middle of the week. People should be focused on other things and not me. Mondays are typically a ton of Zoom calls, believe it or not. I try to end the day, obviously, with a workout and a lot of prayer for me. I'm a faithful woman. That's what keeps me going. And then on Tuesday, it's more of getting ready for the week, figuring out what happened Monday and what I need to do to get my travel on. I do a lot of outreach on Tuesday because that's when people's minds tend to be open. And then on Friday, I try to, when I take class on Tuesday and Thursday in the evening, so Practico mi Español, I really want to speak it fluently. So I have a professor that actually is from FIU by way of Peru. But when we just spend an hour on Tuesday and Thursday doing Spanish. So that's my, give back to myself selfishly that I keep in with my hour. But my days are full of Zoom, ton of talking, ton of meeting people. And then I'm excited to be on this call on Friday. Just to hear and listen and learn from all of you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I don't want to cheat anyone of their time. So I don't know if Evangeline saw some great questions that she was able to pull from the chat. If not, I can briefly look, or please just unmute your mic and ask a question, share a story that you have. If not, then I may have to move back to our panelists because I know they have so many beautiful stories to share. So do we have any question in the chat or anyone has a question they want to ask one of our panelists?
There were not a lot of questions in the chat. There were mostly motivational stuff and, everybody just thanking each other for sharing their story and inspiration.
Oh, that's fine. Do we have anyone here that have a question, or you feel free to raise your hand? Casey, do you want to share anything else with us? Because I love a good, listening to individuals who are a little older than us who can tell us a little bit about life experience, like, not worrying so much. And it's okay to just, let it be. Life goes on, life continues. So if not, then I'll go off to our panelists and ask them what a typical day looks like for them.
All right, I'll give one other piece of advice. So my therapist once told me, and I find this very true, that there's two wasted emotions in life: shame and regret. And the reason being is that those emotions don't really do much for you. They're really done, which goes back into my earlier point of don't worry about things. Do what you have to do. If you make a mistake, you can always apologize for it. We all learn. That's how we learn. We make mistakes. But shame and regret are a waste of emotion. If you want to go for something, go for it. If you want to do something, do it. Make sure it's legal. whatever you do, it's legal, just one caveat there. But legal and ethical and moral, but don't be afraid to do something. And always ask questions, always be inquisitive, never be afraid to read. And always, most importantly, be learning.
Thank you so much for sharing that again. Amanda, as we wait for our audience to think of some questions that they may have, would you like to share what a typical day looks like for you?
So a typical day for me, as Paula mentioned, it's unpredictable. Some days, things happen and they change, but usually days for me are, I go to classes every single day. So I commute to Berry University, which is about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how traffic feels that day to treat me. But other than that, I usually start my day at Berry. From there, I usually do some sort of workout, which the best way that I did that this semester was by taking an ISR course, which is an active course. So you can either do boxing or Zumba. So I decided to practice strength training. So that's kind of a way that I push myself to work out because I actually get college credit for it. So it's an amazing way to do that as well. Besides that, I usually get back to emails, see how other organizations are doing on my campus, see if there's any opportunities. And I usually like to plan my week on Sundays. Sundays are really like my reset days, things that I want to do during the week, I'll do on Sunday and kind of give myself a timeline of how my week is looking like. And I think something that's also very important, I like to just close off the week with either hanging out with friends, being with family. So for example, today it's been a long week with different conferences and, conversations. So today, it's kind of like my night out, kind of like unwind, reset, and kind of get ready for the following week. That's the best way that I like to do things.
Beautiful. Yeah, I find it very helpful. Like on a weekend, like if you just plan out like what I'm going to do the next day. If I wake up with nothing in mind, I'm like, I don't know where to start. But I find it very helpful. Like if I write certain things that I want to tackle down, it helps a lot. And what I try to do every day, I agree, maybe unpredictable, but I try to tackle a heavy task each day. Like say I have a major assignment, I try to tackle those and get one major assignment done out of the way, even if it's not every day, but every other day. If I have a major paper that I'm working on, I try to get something solid in when my mind is actually working. Because once my brain shut down, it's hard to do anything productive. But I do see that we have a question here, which I'm going to open up to the panelists to feel free to answer, is can you suggest one strategy or technique you use to help keep yourself motivated? Anyone can take that question.
All right, let me try to say something I do.
Yes.
Okay, usually I have to take 2 pieces of paper and then I try to put everything I'm gonna lose if I don't keep going, and everything so that's gonna happen if I keep going. And then I try to compare them. So obviously, so whatever I have going on that's gonna happen to me gonna be heavy. And I'm gonna say, so there's no way for me to give up because I have a lot to lose if I don't keep going.
Oh,
So
wow.
I do.
Very inspiring. Yeah, you have more to lose if you give up, but if you keep going, better things to come. Awesome. Do we have anyone else that want to share something? This is the audience. We want to make them happy.
I think to add on to Orlandia's point is it's about visualizing goals sometimes. So I do try to associate, for example, positive imagery with the things that I do and what I want to achieve with them. So, just imagining with ICMA, for example, what are the things that we are set out to do, which is building a strong foundation of resources for students. So kind of just imagining where that goes and where it can lead to, that kind of keeps me motivated to keep pushing through and leave the next leadership board open with lots of opportunities and a stronger foundation to keep building on.
Awesome. Chloe has a comment. Go ahead, Chloe.
Well, as someone who grew up in Florida public schools, K through 12, and then college, I recently went to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And it's a very, emotional experience, beautiful experience, but kind of upsetting because I learned a whole bunch of things I never heard in school. So to anybody who is currently whatever level, K through 12, college, PhD, especially as a Black person in academia. I think it's important to read the stories that we don't hear, to read the books that may not be in the curriculum, to go to places and that may not be as fun on the weekends as some of your friends may see, because these images, when they say visualize and just be positive, these images weren't directly given to me, even in suburbia, Florida. And so I think a lot of times, like, I hear this term about Black girl magic, and I think it's great. But the reality of that is that I have to resist gravity. We have to resist gravity. And how do you do that? I think the best way is reading. I love trap music. I love classical music, but I've managed to incorporate what is going to be most resourceful. So maybe that's an audiobook, maybe that's a TED talk, at the start of my day. And then I can vibe out to Meg Thee Stallion when I'm running. But just seek out the sources that embody your experience in the most realistic way in thought.
Awesome. And I think one thing for me is that what I've learned throughout this process is find someone you admire. I think that keeps me motivated too, is that I find someone who I admire, someone I really look up to, and I see what it is that they do, and they really motivate me. Okay, they keep going, I can also keep going. And I think for us as doctoral students, what really helped me was having a social support system. We are so into the books and the writings and the article that we forget we need a social support where when I want to vent, I need someone who understands where I'm coming from, someone I can speak with. I think one of you guys mentioned that earlier today, is that you are not alone. There are people going through similar things that you're going through. And what motivates me is when I talk to another doctoral student, it's a challenge that I'm having is that, oh girl, I'm having the same challenge. I'm going through the same thing. And then I realize, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not going through this alone. It could be simple things as traveling to conferences that I know I'm unable to pay for. And then I talk to another doctoral student and they tell me, I'm going through the same challenge, Bernice. Let's put our heads together and figure it out. That motivates me to keep going. And so if you're a student, if you're a PhD student, MPA student, high school student, find someone who you can talk to. If the class assignment is too difficult, find someone to collaborate with. Find someone to talk to, someone that's going through the same thing. Two heads is better than one. So that's what I would say, keep you motivated when you want to give up. Do we have anyone else that want to share something? We have about 5 more minutes. And then the last session, we will ask our panelists to give any final word that they would like to leave with the audience. Like if they forget everything you mentioned today, what's one thing you want to stick in their mind? Say, okay, don't ever forget this, right? So do we have anyone else that want to share a strategy or something that they would like to keep them motivated, something that keeps you motivated? No.
Yeah. I guess just tying it back with the idea that or the question you asked earlier about what we do during our days, during the week. I think having that, I know a couple of you guys mentioned it, having that day where you get to kind of reset, it both, I think, revitalizes me for the week, but also helps me stay motivated, because I think it's easy to, I think, get drained, especially when you're doing lots of tasks. And for me, that's something that doesn't, like, it can demotivate me if I'm very stressed out, if I can't see past what's in front of me. So I think one strategy, which I think we've already mentioned, is just having that time to reset. Read a book, go swimming, take a ride on the bike. Those are some things that I do. But also writing down goals. I think it's something that a friend of mine was telling me last year, and I was like, I was still in that transition from going from one career to the other, and I was a little stagnant at one point. But I think when I started actually writing some of the goals down, that really helped motivate me, because I was like, it's not just in my mind now, it's on paper. Like, this is going to keep me accountable to what I want to do. And so I look at that, and something that I tried this year as well was a personal development plan, which kind of is like goals that I have for the year and also steps to get there. And so I think that also helps, because it can be really easy to keep it vague. But if you have something specific and you share with others, which I've done with a couple of other just people that have similar goals to me, they keep me accountable towards that, similar to what to Bernice was saying, like having people around you that can support you in your goals. And so I think those are just two strategies, like really just having that time to reset, but also writing down goals and having others keep you accountable.
Wow. I don't want to leave any of our audiences out. So before we get into any final word, even if it's just one word, I'll give everyone a split seconds each. I want us to go into this question, which is, with going to school, trying to get further into your career, working part-time, how are you able to manage both at the same time while having the same motivation to continue to push forward to achieve your goal? That question is basically describing my life as an undergraduate student. I was taking 15 credits in the honors college. I was working 2 part-time jobs, and to be able to pay for my apartment that I was sharing with 2 other students. And so I feel like what really helped me to stay motivated is, I always thought, Vernice, if you give up, who cares? If you give up now, no one else I don't have anyone else to call. If I give up, I don't have a home to go to. I don't have a family member around that I can just pack up and leave. So it's like I had to push and push and push. If I fail a class, I didn't have anyone to pay for it for me. And so I had to find a way to stay motivated. Is like, okay, this is like, I don't have any other options. So I had to keep on pushing. I had to keep on pushing to stay motivated for my class, because scholarships was paying for those classes and I couldn't fill those. I had to work 2 part-time jobs, because if I don't pay for my apartment with my other friends or students that I was sharing it with, I don't have a family member to go to. I feel like when you have no other option, that really helps to keep you motivated. With that, I'd ask Mia to share. I could share more, but I don't want to be greedy.
I just wanted to add on to your points, Vernice, which were great, and definitely hit the nail. But I think one thing that does motivate me is, with planning and organization, I also end up rewarding myself. And with that, I mean, I try to plan and organize all my work throughout the weekdays, so that I don't have as much, or I don't have anything left to do on the weekends. That way I actually get to take that time to, take a break, do something else, and reward myself. I'm in DC right now. I go explore. I go find different things, different food scenes, just to give myself a breather and do something else as well. Because definitely that is my life right now. I'm doing ICMA, 3 courses at the same time to graduate, and 2 jobs as well. So it's a lot. You just have to keep pushing through. Eventually you'll get there. And again, it's temporary. So I know I'm going to graduate this semester. I'm not going to be having these courses again for a while, at least. So those are some things that I will do.
All right. Enjoy the process. Do we have any last word? I know we are at the 11:15 mark, which is going to end our session soon, because we have other sessions that are coming up. But do we have a last word? Chloe, give us your last word to the participants, so before we go on and end the session.
Okay, y'all know, full of words. Keep reading, be kind to yourself, and then be kind to others.
Nice. Thank you so much. Such a beautiful saying, nice and short and sweet. Tommy, do you have any final word?
Yeah, I would say stay open, keep your passion, and never forget who you are.
Nice. Paula, do you have any final word for our audience?
I really like what everybody else said, but I think that the word I would choose would be authentic. Being authentic is a big one. We need more of that. And if we can bring each one of ourselves to that space, we'll get one more.
Nice. Merlandi?
All right, so I will start by saying to be grateful to those who have helped you in the process, your teachers, your mentor, and always follow up, because and be committed too, because they can drag the horse to the water, but they cannot force to drink it.
I love that saying. Amanda, and then Mia.
Something that I would like to close off with is just trust the process. Whatever you're going through right now is not permanent. And I think whatever you are going through right now will just make you stronger and prepare you for what's to come, because the best is yet to come.
Nice. Mia?
Yeah, great points, everyone. Just, to reiterate, to trust the process. Everyone's on their own timeline, and to just keep looking for opportunities to grow and challenge yourself and to challenge others. I think that's important thought to have.
That's nice. And I'm going to just steal Casey's word because that stuck with me and I don't want it. I want it to be stuck with you guys is don't worry about anything. Because I want to be thinking about that all day because I've been worrying so much about so many things. And today I'm just going to breathe and not worry about anything. And with that, I want to say thank you so much to all of our panelists. You guys been amazing. Thank you to our audience who's been watching faithfully and didn't just log in and log us out. So I thank you guys for being here with us. Please continue to enjoy the conference. I believe we are going now in the main room and then we will continue with the rest of the day. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good one. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.